I am the one the choir is singing about, and for that I say you're welcome. Nice to have all of you here on the program. Jimmy is my name, and get that camera angle right. Here we go. Tilted hat. How do you like that? Good morning, everybody. It's a Friday edition of the show. A lot of you have started your long Memorial Day weekend, the kickoff officially for the summer months, Friday, the 23rd day of May, year of our Lord 2025. Good to have all of you here on the program that are tuned in. A lot of you will probably listen later in the day, but whether you're watching on the live podcast, streamcast, or the later recorded audio-only podcast, glad to have you here. Jimmy is my name, unleashed from the confines of corporate radio. And here we sit together to do commentating and informating. I don't think that's a word. Is it information, entertainment? We combine it all right here together, and we say it's a glorious day the Lord has made. Coming up on the program, a real-life funny guy is going to be on the show. Comedian and cop Vinny Montez. I've just rented his special that's on the Amazon Prime. Watched it the other night. Thought it was quite fascinating. He's a Colorado fella, and so comedian and cop extraordinaire. Vinny Montez coming up on the show. Also, Jeff Dornick's going to be with us, talking about some of the news of the week, and got some other stories I want to dive into. Want to remind you, wherever you're listening to the program or watching the program, if you jump in on any of the chat rooms, feel free to make a comment. Make a comment and tell everybody what you're thinking, what is on your mind. Now, right there, you see Ray just commented on the YouTube. You saw the YouTube logo. So if you're on YouTube, you post a comment, it can show up here, right here on the screen, at the behest of producer Chad. Itchy little posting finger. That's what happens there. So you can do the post there, if you will, from all the platforms, the YouTube, the Rumble works as well. We also have an Instagram feed. Instagram doesn't post automatically, but I do check over there on occasion. Instagram's not necessarily our strongest platform. They cut us off after like 30 minutes or something. So anyway, if you do stop by on Instagram, good morning. You can watch the whole show on Facebook, Twitter, X, Rumble, YouTube, and all the platforms. Anyway, good to have you out here, and pleasure to have you here on this glorious day the Lord has made. And one more quick note before we dive into the news. We will be off on Monday for Memorial Day, and we will do a lesson here this morning. Do you know what Memorial Day is really all about? Do you understand the meaning of Memorial Day? Surveys have been done, and some people, 52% of Americans, think that Memorial Day has lost its original meaning. Only 60% of Americans say remembering America's fallen troops is the first thing they associate with the Memorial Day holiday, and that includes just 48% of the youngers, the Gen Zers out there. They really don't know what Memorial Day is all about. So please, Memorial Day, let me just do a little captivation and information for you. Memorial Day is where we commemorate those who have fallen, those who are no longer with us. You know, I always appreciate people saying thank you for your service, but we do that on Veterans Day. That's the emphasis there. Memorial Day is not necessarily the emphasis, or the emphasis, as some people would say, to thank people for their service. It is to commemorate those who have given and paid the ultimate price so that we can continue to be the land of the free and the home of the brave. So, little education out there that Memorial Day is really about commemorating and memorializing those who paid the ultimate price. So don't forget that. Evidently, people have forgotten that. We'll do some more on this poll about Memorial Day. Has it lost its original meaning? That's something you may want to sound off on as well. Feel free to let us know. Do you remember what Memorial Day is? Do you think it has lost its original meaning? Feel free to jump into the conversation, if you would. We'd love to hear from you on that Memorial Day. How do you commemorate it? I also have a story about Memorial Day in which it tells state-by-state breakdown of the favorite meat that people like to cook. Of course, summer is kind of the official kickoff of summer. It's a time in Colorado where a lot of the swimming pools start to open. In Texas, that's not a problem where I grew up at, but in Colorado, a lot of times it's Memorial Day through Labor Day. Very small window in which you can get the swimming pools going and down to the swimming hole, the cement pond, as they said on the Beverly Hillbillies. So anyway, happy summer kickoff to all of you. Don't forget what Memorial Day is really all about. We will discuss, and I will remind you here on the program. But we'll also go through the meats that people like to grill for Memorial Day. One more quick thing about Memorial Day. There's a lot of new movies coming out this weekend. It's the weekend, it's the fall kickoff when it comes to, the summer kickoff when it comes to movies. And I guess the big one that's out there is going to be, what is it? Mission Impossible 47. There's a billion of them. Mission Impossible 47, 48, 49, 50. It's coming up. Mission Impossible's happening. And it brings me to a question that producer Chad and I were discussing before the program is, when was the last time you went to a movie theater? What was the last movie you saw in the theater? I would argue that I can't remember the last movie. Now, before COVID, my son and I were regular moviegoers. That was kind of our Saturday or weekend routine. We'd go to a movie when he was especially a younger guy. Y'all saw all the Marvels and all the animations that you can imagine. But I don't really recall that we got back in the habit after the COVID. I know we've been to a movie or two since the booger cootie virus, since the COVID, but I don't remember what the movie was. What was the last movie that you saw at the theater? And obviously, by telling us the movie, we'll probably be able to tell how long it's been since you moved to the movie theater. Have your movie habits and going to the theaters changed since the COVID and the booger cootie virus? I would guess mine have. I don't know if that was a sign of my son aging and us not going to movies together as much, or if it was just the fact that we just got out of the habit. I don't know. When was the last time, or what was the last movie you saw in the theater? Comment on all the platforms, and let's see if we can kind of catch a glimpse of what it is and when you went to the movies last. But I would argue and guess that most of us have, I don't know, everybody that I know has prolifically changed their movie habits since the booger cootie virus, since the COVID shutdown. And so what the last movie, okay, here we go. The last movie I saw in the theater was the first Avatar movie. So Debbie, if I'm not mistaken, you're pushing the first Avatar movie. You're probably 2008, 2009. I mean, you're going way back. 2010 at Debbie hadn't been in the movie before COVID. Debbie gave up on the AMC and the Cinemark long before the rest of you did, the United Artists or whoever's still making movie theaters out there. Debbie, what made you stop? You stopped before COVID. And let me know the last movie you saw in the theater. What was it? The first Avatar movie. That had to be the 2009, 2010. That was a long time ago, Debbie. You have not been to a movie in a long, almost 20 years, and God bless you. And I hope you're enjoying watching movies at home or wherever it is you are watching them. Speaking of the COVID, I got this story that I think is fascinating, and I always want to mix these in because I think it's so important that in the modern day, whether it's this election cycle, the next election cycle, really the next handful of election cycles that we're in, you need to remember what they did to you and what they did to businesses like movie theaters and restaurants because of the booger cootie virus, because of the COVID-19 scare. And there's a story that hit yesterday, and I teased it, and it was on my show sheet, and I didn't get to it. I'm going to get to it now. That you have to understand that there's more lies that you were told during that. And again, for months during the 2020, 2021, I was locked out of my own Twitter account. I was shadow banned on the Facebook. I couldn't say anything because I had questions about what we called the booger cootie virus, the COVIDs, the vaccine, all this. So we had questions about it. I didn't state any facts as far as opinions. They were all opinions, but I said, talk to your doctor. You have to work out your own medical protocols with fear and trembling on your own. I wasn't giving medical advice. Well, anyway, I got banned and shadow banned and kicked down and slapped around and pushed to the curb by so many of the online platforms. And I realized that anytime the algorithms would see the word COVID or vaccine or Dr. Fauci, especially if you criticize Dr. Fauci, that was like blaspheming the fourth part of the Holy Trinity, and you were kicked your ass to the curb. So I came up with code names. And so if you remember back in the radio days, back in those days, we called him the little effer. And I could always post about the little effer, Dr. Fauci, and I would never get shut down with the Twitter or the Facebook or shadow banned as long as I referred to him as the little effer because the algorithms did not know who the little effer was. And remember Dr. Burks, remember she always had these scarves around her head, soireed up there? Well, I called her Scarf Lady. I called her Dr. Scarf. And as long as I referred to the little effer and Dr. Scarf, I could say anything that I wanted about them, and I would not get shut down, shadow banned, locked out because I came up with code names. And so then I realized I got to have a code name for the virus because I keep getting shadow banned about the virus as well. And so I can't talk about that or the vaccinations or the shots or the jabs. You had to come up with phrases. And so I renamed the COVID-19, renamed it the booger cootie virus, because I figure it's like a booger and a cootie. You don't want to catch it. It gets stuck on you sometimes. And I just came up with that phrase one day in conversational jabber during my radio show, and the booger cootie virus. So when you hear me talk about the booger cootie virus or the little effer, Dr. Fauci or Dr. Scarf, it was all an attempt to hijack and end run the Silicon Valley gods that had decided that certain parts of conversation and certain parts of science and certain parts of data and information should not be announced and should not be discussed publicly. And if you do try to discuss them publicly and go against what the little effer Dr. Fauci says, you're going to be punished. And I was being punished, so I got past the punishment. Well, here we are, 2025, year of our Lord 2025, and we're still learning about the lies that we were told about the booger cootie virus. This is a story that hit yesterday. The U.S. officials purposefully, under the Joe Biden administration, delayed telling you about the risk of the booger cootie virus shot and myocarditis. Here's the actual story. Let me read it just from the news feed. U.S. health officials knew about the risk of myocarditis from the COVID-19 vaccines, but they downplayed the concern and delayed informing the public about the risk of taking the booger cootie virus jab. And that is according to a new Senate report that's being released by Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. It came out Wednesday. Ron Johnson, chairman of the Senate Permanent Committee on Investigations, has been investigating the safety and the efficacy of the booger cootie virus vaccines. Earlier this year, he has subpoenaed the Department of Health and Human Services for records regarding the booger cootie virus jab safety data, including communications about the pandemic. The interim report by Johnson is 55 pages. It obtained and has been reviewed now by Fox News Digital, and it revealed that Biden administration officials, quote, from the report, withheld crucial health information from the subcommittee and the public about the risk of myocarditis and other adverse events following booger cootie virus vaccination. So throwing that out there for your contemplation and consideration, because as I began the segment, I said one thing that I will not forget in any election cycle, probably the rest of my life, but at least in the near future, is I'm going to look back on any jackass politician that's wanting my vote and ask, how did you behave? How did you lie? How did you deceive? What did you do during the booger cootie virus epidemic or pandemic? How did you behave then? Because we found out a lot of you were lying. A lot of you were criticizing those people who were trying to get some alternative truths out there. So that's why I bring up these booger cootie virus stories. Some people say, well, move on. It's past us. That's over with. It ain't over with, my friend. They took away a lot of people. They had people dying alone in hospitals, holding up signs outside to tell granny you love her because you weren't allowed in the hospital. They had people dying in isolation. They exacerbated a mental health crisis on students that were isolated, kept out of school, really for no reason. I mean, there were so many lies that got told during that time that we just have to remind ourselves over and over again who the liars were. And when they look for a re-election or they look for a promotion or they look for a different office, you have to say, hey, ho, ho, hell no, you've really got to go. Some poetry like that. Shakespearean as it may not be, but you gotta tell them no. And it is a caveat. Whether it's a Republican or Democrat, I look at how they behave during the booger cootie virus, and I look at that and say, I'm sorry, you ain't getting my vote, and you don't deserve my respect either. All right, good to have you here again. The question of the day, what's the last movie that you saw in the movie theater? Some of you have been commenting. I've seen a couple of you say that Top Gun Maverick, that was just one on the screen. Jim says last was Top Gun Maverick at a drive-in. Last in a real theater was Star Wars 42. I said 42. And there's a lot of Star Wars, too. It's kind of like the Mission Impossible movies hitting the theaters this weekend, and it's like Mission Impossible 73. So anyway, Tom Cruise still does his own stunts, though. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to know I still do my own stunts on this show as well. So I don't even have a body double because, good Lord, it's... Well, what they would do, when my body shows, my friends, you already stumbled in your walk with the Lord. I understand that. And if you have a body double, they try to get some buff person out there to do it. And I don't want you to stumble twice. Just stumble about the original Lakey and then the body double Lakey. I'm causing you to stumble, and I think the good Lord may not like that. So please, just get that image out of your head. My Chippendale dancing days might be a little bit far away and in the past, but they are, my friends, a glorious memento of what can happen to an American boy that takes his shirt off and drops his pants. What the hell that means. All right, good to have all of you here. Let's welcome into the program a guest here. It's Vinny Montez. Perhaps you, like I, have stumbled across his comedy special. I rented it on the Amazon. I wasn't ready for the full commit. I could buy it or rent it. Renting was $2.99. Buying it was like $16.99. I said, well, I don't know if I want to buy it. I may not want to own it. But I think maybe I do want to own it. It's pretty darn good stuff. Has worked with the Boulder County Sheriff's Department for many years. Vinny Montez is in the green room. Vinny, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good. I rented it. I didn't buy it. I hope that's okay. I didn't want to commit until I watched it.
I'm glad you saw it. That's great.
Talk about it. You've worked for, and I don't know if you still work with the Boulder County Sheriff's Department, but somehow you stumbled into a world of stand-up comedy so much that Amazon Prime and some of the cable outfits are doing a special about Vinny Montez. Talk about your illustrious and storied career in the Boulder County Sheriff's Department, and we'll dive into how you parlayed that into comedic work.
Well, I'm a 27-year veteran there. I started actually earlier than that as a cadet at the age of 14 at a smaller agency, but came over to the sheriff's office when I was 16. And I just always watched this show called Chips growing up, and it was really inspiring and is, kind of takes off from that point at the beginning of the movie, Vinnyisms. And I was able to just fall into a career that I really loved. And I've been there ever since. And one of the things that they didn't prepare me for is dealing with the things that you see, taste, smell, touch, and hear. And by the time I was at year 10, actually as a deputy on the street, I was struggling with my mental health, and I was ashamed to talk about it. I wasn't really very comfortable about it. And it was the culture coming up that we really didn't talk about those things. So the next thing you know, after, a great career working not only patrol, the jail, narcotics, detectives, you name it, I've done it. I felt in a bad place. And so I needed an outlet, something that was different than just doing the job. And I found myself going to stand-up comedy in Denver, Colorado, and trying one of the open mic nights at Comedy Works. I absolutely fell in love with it. And here we are almost 18 years later doing stand-up comedy.
How do you go from being a lover, a fan of comedy, to saying, I'm going to get up there and crack a few wisecracks on my own? Did you prepare? Did you write? How did you even consider that you might be funny enough to make some people giggle?
I think it would be accurate to say people have always thought I'm a character, especially, when you're around me. I'm always joking. I'm always cutting up. I did a hairbrush preset practicing before I ever did that first stand-up set. There's video footage of that. I think it's actually in the movie. Like anything, you have to take a leap of faith. And my mom has always said that, growing up, and she's a big inspiration. She's part of the movie. My whole family is part of it. A lot of the people I work with, it centers around, Vinny, and from a young age all the way to today, but just really a lot of people talk about those things. And for me, taking the leap of faith for comedy is like being a police officer, going on every day, putting that vest on, going and deal with calls that you never know what's going to happen. Comedy shows are like that too. You never know what's going to happen. You might get a heckler. The crowd may be hot. They may not be into it. People, sometimes you'll end up doing a show they didn't even know a comedy show was about to happen. So I think there's a lot of similarities that you can find between the world of being a police officer and actually doing stand-up comedy.
Have you ever had any of your colleagues or your fellow officers? Because sometimes it's fun to kind of make fun of yourself, make fun of your profession. I make fun of myself, self-deprecating humor. Have you ever had anybody that's in the business of law enforcement go, "Oh, come on, Vinny, don't joke about that. That's sacred. You can't talk about that." Have you ever offended anybody that's in the business like you are?
No, I don't think so. And I think that's because there's the dark humor that exists for first responders behind the scenes. A lot of people don't think cops are funny, but if you ever get a chance to sit in a briefing, you know, and I talk about this in Vinnyisms, is the dark humor that exists. We use that as a mechanism for survival. So it's really hard to offend somebody who sees the things that we've seen over a course of a career. But I've never really had anybody tell me that. And I'm not a dirty comic, in the blue sense. So, I am very dark humor, though. There's some stuff in there, if you've seen the film, that I talk about dark humor. It is very in your face, but I think all the people in this profession really understand that. And I think that's what makes me relatable to them, because they go, this guy gets it.
I liked the part where they said they could tell which car you had been in because there were Taco Bell wrappers. There were. Did you not have a trash can in your car? Did you just hide it? What were you doing
No,
here?
that was like when I was 16 or 17. That Phil West is talking in the movie about when I'd ride along with him and I'd leave my trail. Yeah, I got to own that. You can't cut that stuff out of the movie. Talking about the reality of who I was then and who I am now. But yeah, I take full ownership of that.
All right, everybody's got you got all your buddies, people in law enforcement you worked with or work currently or in the past. They all show up there, but your wife also shows up in the Vinnyisms movie, and I've watched it once, and I got to go back and watch it. I'm not convinced that she thinks you're that funny.
No, she'll tell you. She'll tell you flat out that I'm not that funny, only because she doesn't enjoy my type of humor. And I talk about this in the movie as I say, anytime I can find anything that makes her laugh and makes everybody else laugh and bridge that gap, I know I've got solid gold. And I think the part where she doesn't find me so funny is I end up taking one of the stories that really happened between us called The Shush and putting that in the movie. And, she's, it's kind of poking fun at her a little bit. And her family loves that bit. I don't care what.
She says it never happened.
Yeah, I know. She says it never happened. She tells me I've got selective hearing. Well, she's got selective memory for this event for sure.
All men will appreciate this. You watch the movie Vinny Montez, Vinnyisms. There was a moment in a very important time that his wife paused everything and said, "Did you just shush me?" And any man knows you'd never shush her, or you never tell her settle down. You never do that either. Vinny got accused of that, and
yeah,
he can tell the story in the movie. But
somebody was breaking. We thought somebody. I thought for sure somebody was breaking into the house. And when you think somebody's breaking into your house, extreme measures were called for, and that's what I did. I thought we were in that situation where I had a little bit of a little bit of leeway. That wasn't the case, fellas. That was not the case.
Don't shush the wife. That's a very, very bad idea. There's a lot of comics out there, and I'm sure you watched some developing your career, and you're probably fans of some. And you mentioned your wife doesn't like your type of humor. What type of what comedians were you watching, kind of saying, I want to be like that if I could ever get on the stage and be a comic? And who still influences you?
Bernie Mac was one of my, and the reason I like Bernie Mac so much, not necessarily because of the vulgarity they would have, but just the dynamic of the way he would perform. It's morning time right now. I'm not at my high level right now, but like being able to just take command of that stage, be present, story tell, talk to people, let them feel what you're really saying and the meaning behind every word, every beat. And I also found historically Don Rickles absolutely amazing. And the reason I love Don Rickles, what they call Mr. Warmth, is just his ability to snap people off, joke with them, be able to just be the highlight of that room. And when I entertain around the country, whether I'm performing for public audiences or 1,500 people at the Casro conference for school resource officers, I love connecting with people and being able to jab back and forth with the audience when it's appropriate. Man, those are some of the people that really have that skill set. And of course you got people, that historically are like George Lopez, which the Latino culture, I really like that. So I still relate to a lot of those guys, even though Bernie Mac's no longer alive.
Yeah, it's people that can do crowd work like that's part of the show, like a Matt Rife. That's impressive because that is all just top of mind stuff. And I watch it, and sometimes a little repetitive, or I was like, give me something else. But it's just fascinating to watch the skill that takes to be able to interact with the crowd, especially when that's pretty much your entire show.
Yeah, that he does have that great skill set, and there are comedians who really you're like, are they done with the crowd work and they're going to start doing bits? But some comedians, that's what they do. And, I take my hat off to them. I don't think I'll ever be that level because I love storytelling. I love taking people through different nuances of the life that I've led. And I absolutely, there's so many different times. And deadpan comedians, I'll never be that type of comedian. Everybody has a different way to relate to people. And those comedians find that vein or that avenue that makes them really good at what they do. And that's why people love them that follow their genre.
Vinny Montez is my guest. If you're listening later in the podcast version of the show, Vinny Montez, Vinnyisms, the story of a cop, the cop comedian. Vinny, a couple more moments together. Let me ask you, started off stand-up comedy for you as kind of a coping mechanism. At which point did it get to the point to where you've kind of coped with it? It's not just a coping mechanism. It's like a life's goal. I mean, it's no longer just therapy session at the open mic night, but this is now an aspirational direction you want to go. When did that happen?
I think it'll always be therapy for me. And the reason I say that is it's a chance for me to express and have an outlet to let go and share things that people may not know about me or just may be relatable to them in their circumstance in life. I would say what it really kicked off to the level that it's at now is probably 2018, 2019. But then, of course, COVID happened. And it was I'm probably one of the few people that say this, but I ended up doing shows online. And if you ever had a chance to do comedy by itself, a stand-up mic, it's scary enough. Having 100 little boxes on your computer trying to perform while the dog is walking across the camera, you're seeing this on stage, kids are fighting, and people are talking, you're trying to hold the cadence. Man, it really made me really good, a lot better than I was even before COVID. So, every opportunity that comes along, this is the path that it's led me on. I'm very, very grateful. I'm here with you today. I tell people, take a chance. If you're not sure about it and you've always wondered, man, should I get up on that comedy stage? Man, I'm always welcoming. Let's go. The more people, because everybody has a different blend, a different style. And you got to get out there and do it. So for me, 2018, 2019 is really where things kicked off and brought me to where I am today.
So you mentioned the COVID and having to do kind of the Zoom calls, look like Brady Bunch family. You're having to entertain them because we're all locked down. And take your mask off, honey. You're in the living room by yourself. You don't have to do that. But did you also, in that COVID era, we lived through the George Floyd riots, in which people like yourself, cops, were looked down upon. People were pulling shows like Cops off television. It was a real stupid time in America. What did you notice during that time? Here, you're a stand-up comic, that your story is I'm a cop, and you're out there circulating, percolating. We're being told that cops were not getting a lot of respect. Did you have any troubles or hassles during that era of being the cop on the stage trying to be funny, and people go, I don't trust him, he's a cop?
It's funny you say that. I made it to the executive producers of America's Got Talent that year. I think it was 2020, and it was done by a Zoom call, and I will forever never forget that, because it was a great opportunity. I just think, I wasn't selected, but, I kind of wonder in the back of my head, I can't prove anything, but, I wonder if that had to do with that, with George Floyd and everything happening. Either way, I'm grateful for just even having the opportunity and them considering me. But one of the things that I really took away from that during COVID was people were consuming a lot of media, not just, TV, but videos. And my special had just come out in 2019, Vinny Montez, Armed and Hilarious, and that was on Amazon and YouTube. And so people start watching it. It really gave me a lot more exposure. So, I really can't complain too much about, what happened there. I'm very blessed, and I just think that we've come a long way. I guess to answer your question specifically, it doesn't matter whether it's now, 1970s, 1980s. There's always these ebbs and flows in law enforcement. And I guess I've become used to that's the way it's always going to be. I don't think we're ever going to be one of those professions that everybody's constantly, hey, we love the cops, because we don't come to people when they're in their best circumstance. We often come to them when they're in their worst circumstance.
The voice of Vinny Montez, his latest special is called Vinnyisms, a story of the cop comedian. Vinny, I watched it on the Amazon. As I said, I rented it there. Is that where you go to watch it?
Yeah, that's where it's been released first, is on Amazon Prime, and I'm very blessed for that as well. But in the future, it will be available on other platforms once it's spent some time on Amazon. Look, I encourage you to go watch it. It's hard to talk about dark humor. It's hard to talk about mental health, but this is a very entertaining movie that is meant to make people laugh. It has a serious message in the middle. But if you know anybody who's a first responder, I encourage you to watch it, just because it's the truth, the life of what we do. And it's also just very entertaining. You can watch it with a family. And that's what my whole goal is with it, is just to share that warmth, and laughter is the best medicine. And I hope people find that.
Now, people don't know, well, there's a connection that Vinny has to the show, is that producer Chad and Vinny kind of grew up together, and they were student explorer cops together. Vinny, we want you to tell us about producer Chad, the esteemed producer of this fine broadcast. You guys were best buddies. Was he a lot like Barney Fife? Was he Punch? Was he John? Who was he?
No, he was like the jock. Like growing up, he was the jock. The jock. He always had, the cool girl on his arm, the cute girl. He was very well mannered, very nice guy, and I consider him a great friend to this day.
That
I
is not what
can't
I wanted to hear there.
I
I
can't say
needed some.
enough. I'm serious. Well, it's not only him, but his brother, Kevin. We all grew up together. I'm very well acquainted with his mom and his dad, Randy and Barb. They're great people. He comes from good stock, and I am just blessed to know him. And he's a very funny guy. He likes to cut up. The only thing I don't like about him is he likes to smoke cigars, and I just kind of
No, Vinny,
I don't
don't
like
be
the
blaspheming.
stench.
Stop that nonsense. Yeah, you're blaspheming there. Here you, I'm trying to get the dish out on producer Chad, and you're dishing out on the cigars. I think our conversation may be. And real quick, when you played chips as a kid, I used to ride on my bicycle to my grandparents' house with my cousin. I'm guessing, but maybe it's kind of a racial stereotype. Were you Ponch or John?
Heck yeah, I was Ponch. I love Ponch. He was a role model for me. I truly saw myself like if he could be in this role as a police officer, which is a very prominent role. I mean, you have the power to take people's freedom away, and here's this guy that's a role model to me, and I never forgot. There's always a moral to every episode, and so yeah, I really, really related to him, and I was proud to put on the uniform when it came time to.
Well, my cousin and I were just two white guys, two little cracker gringos there, and but we both wanted to be Ponch because all the girls seemed to like Ponch more, and so we would sometimes fight which of us honkies got to be Ponch, and sometimes I won that fight with my cousin.
Yeah, I guess I was more like John then because I never had any of the girls coming after me. I was more like girl repellent than I was.
I kind of got that listening to your wife in the show. She seemed to
I know.
Vinny Montez, if folks can watch it on Amazon, Vinnyism's the story of the cop comedian. And if they want to follow you outside of watching it on Amazon, where do they go, sir?
Yeah, just Vinny Montez, my handle. Whether you follow me on Snap, Twitter, Googlegram, or VinnyMontez.com, VINNIE Montez.com. I'd love to do it. And if you need me to come out and do a show, I do shows all over the country all year long. And send me a request. My agent will get back to you.
Let me ask you this question of you, and I know both Jameson brothers, of you, Kevin, and Chad, who was most likely to take the gun out of the holster and shoot themselves in the foot?
Oh, I'll be honest. That was probably me.
Because you were eating a taco.
My fingertips are a little greasy.
From the Taco Bell.
I'll be honest with you. I got in a foot pursuit one time. I don't know if I've ever said this story online, but I got in a foot pursuit one time, and the hood on my gun was down. I don't know how it came down accidentally, and I hit a bump, and my gun bounced out of my holster and onto the ground. That was really embarrassing. And there was a bunch of people on a party. This is like in the middle of the roadway. There's a bunch of people on a balcony, and they all saw it, and they're like, "Ah!" They're laughing at me, and I was like, I picked up my gun. I kind of like looked both ways, and I was like, "Thank you, bye."
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I just walked away.
You doing a foot pursuit and me doing a foot pursuit is just something there should be. We both should be restricted from doing foot pursuits.
Whoa. Look, I'm 27 years in, all right? It was a lot different back in the day. You know what I'm saying? I was a little bit more mobile, a little bit more ninja. You don't know what my skills was back in the day.
I'm not doing any foot pursuit anytime soon. Vinny Montez, it's a pleasure. Vinnyism's the story of the cop comedian. We'll do it again when we can talk longer. Thanks for hopping on, sir. Congrats on the Amazon special.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You got it. Vinny Montez. The Vinnyism's story of the cop, the funny cop guy. Yeah, just look up Vinny and you'll find him on Amazon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good to have you here. The Friday edition of the show, running a couple of minutes behind time, but that's okay. It's my show. We make up the rules the way we want to make up the rules here because I have been unleashed from the confines of corporate radio. I want to welcome into my next guest, though, Jeff Dornick. He's the founder and CEO of a company called Pickaxe. It's the groundbreaking social media platform. It's built on two principles of social media. I mentioned earlier the days of the COVID virus where I was shadow banned and slapped around and pushed around and locked out of my own Twitter account. Social media was not real friendly to free speech. It's gotten a little bit better with brother Elon stepping in, but Jeff Dornick is the founder of Pickaxe. It's a freedom of speech, freedom of reach. His newest book is also called Following the Leader. Please welcome into the Lakey Unleashed Screamcast. And those of you listening later on the morning on the podcast, Jeff Dornick is on the stage with me. Jeff, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure to have you here. I read the bio, and there's some news stories I do want to tie into, but I said another social media platform. Oh, goodness, I do good to keep up with the ones I'm on. Talk about Pickaxe and this new social media platform, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, definitely. So we built this platform. We've been building it out for about the last 2 years or so, and then so right now we're web-based only. We're launching an app here in the next 6 to 8 weeks. So that'll be available as well in the App Store, both Google and Apple. But the whole idea behind this is a couple different things. So one is, like you said, we're offering freedom of speech and freedom of reach. So if you go into the terms and conditions within X right now, they have a policy that they offer freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach, which means that they'll allow anybody to say whatever they want, essentially. But that doesn't mean that they have to let anybody actually see it. And I always use the example that's as if Elon Musk had gone into New York Times Square, set up a stage in the middle, said we're gonna have a free speech event. You got speakers, microphones, sound system, the whole deal. You get up there, you start talking, and then he hits the mute button. And then you're like, I thought this was free speech. Why are you shutting me down? It's like, you can say whatever you want into the microphone, but that doesn't mean that I never made a promise about the volume. And that's kind of what's happening on X. And so one of the things that I really wanted to do with Pickaxe as well is kind of take out the algorithmic manipulation and kind of give you back your voice and your direct access to your audience and people's direct access to you without me trying to decide who gets to see which post based upon this algorithmic, decision. And so, we're using a lot of technological features in order to be able to do that. We've got, standard news feed. We also have the ability to write articles directly within the platform. We're rolling out an email newsletter feature very similar to Substack. We're integrating fully with Rumble to where, if you post your show on Rumble, we can make it to where it'll automatically post onto Pickaxe and be playable in the newsfeed as if it's native to the platform. So we got a lot of really cool features that I think will be very enticing, especially to a lot of content creators. And we've been having a lot of really amazing people hop over. People like Shannon Joy, Naomi Wolf, Ann Vandersteel, Matt Couch, a bunch of awesome people that are already jumping over. And so we're just building and having a great time building it.
We got to look into that for producer Chad. We are on Rumble, so let's look at the Pickaxe connection and see about hopping on there. Jeff Dornick is my guest, founder and CEO of Pickaxe. There's not an app yet, but it's web-based. You can go to your computer and we'll talk about that more. I want to talk about the power of these people that have run these social media platforms and have run Silicon Valley for so long. Elon has made Twitter better. I was locked out during COVID from Twitter because of things that I said about who I called the little effer, Dr. Fauci. I had to get around the algorithms by calling Fauci the little effer. Dr. Birx, I had to nickname her Dr. Scarf. And then I had to call the COVID, anything about that, I called it the booger cootie virus. And as long as I changed the words up, I could actually get my postings to go out to the world. I had to bypass the algorithms. It reminded me of being in North Korea. If you're going to refer to the little dictator, they all name like the little panda, and 2 people die when they find out you're talking about him, and they have to change the name. We went through that with this powerful, really oligarchs, if you will, in Silicon Valley during COVID, to where we were having to come up with parallel code words in order to just get an opinion out.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the term jab came from. Instead of the COVID vaccine or the COVID shot, it became the jab until they, obviously they eventually kind of caught on to that to a certain degree. But just like you, I was attacked and I was permanently suspended under the Jack Dorsey days for literally I was doing my show and I interviewed a black conservative out of Illinois. And it was right in the middle of COVID, all the vaccines rolling out, and in the news was the African American community was much slower to get vaccinated than any other community. And I asked him, why is that? And he brought up the Tuskegee experiment. So just because I asked that question to a black conservative, why is the African American community so hesitant to get vaccinated? And he said it was the Tuskegee experiments and that's in the back of their minds. They don't trust the government, especially when it comes to injecting something and the whole deal. I got permanently suspended for doing that kind of a show. Now, obviously, things are better with Elon per se, but one of the problems is that there is this algorithmic manipulation that's going on that is affecting free speech. Now, one of the core tenets of the First Amendment is you have freedom of speech and you have freedom of the press. A lot of people forget what freedom of the press is, and so freedom of speech is you can verbally go down to your local town square was their original intention and literally say whatever you want. The government's not going to restrict you. Freedom of the press was not like a licensed journalist being able to say whatever they want. It was you were able to write out your grievances, go down to your local printing press, print as many pamphlets as you want without restriction, and then go distribute it without restriction. The key word, though, is without restriction. And that's the problem that we see with a lot of these algorithmic manipulations is you can't truly, by definition, have a free speech, free press site if you're going to limit or restrict their access to their audience and artificially limit their reach. And that's one of the problems that I do have with a lot of these free speech platforms, including X, including, Meta right now is trying to claim that they're going free speech, which we all know Zuckerberg's a load of crock when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like that this idea of freedom of reach is so important to the First Amendment, but it's something that gets overlooked because Elon's not necessarily kicking us off the platform.
The voice of Jeff Dornick, Pickaxe is the name of the social media platform, launching soon on an app near you on your phone. Right now, you can go to the website. We'll talk more about that here in just a moment. Jeff Dornick is the founder and the CEO of Pickaxe, and we'll, again, dive a little bit more on how you can access Pickaxe as the platform. Let me ask you one of the things that they oftentimes, well, let me back up before I go to that question. YouTube is still out there actively in the censorship thing. Anytime we mention any of these topics, and you talked about what I call the booger cootie virus, Dr. Fauci, you just talked about the Tuskegee experiment, all of these things, they're usually about 5-6 o'clock in the afternoon. If we're going to get flagged on YouTube, it happens about that time. That's when the algorithm snakes go through there. And I'll tell you how bad it is on the tube that starts with a U. Is I was interviewing the biographer of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I simply asked the biographer what led Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from being more known for environmentalism to some of the world of medical and vaccines. What raised his sensitivity? What set off his spidey sense regarding the modern world of getting jabs? And I just simply asked what led him to that. And we got shut down for spreading misinformation because I asked a factual question about how Robert F. Kennedy's Jr., his story led down a certain path, and we got shut off YouTube for weeks.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I've been banned on YouTube so many times. It's ridiculous. And I still have one channel on there because I used to have a Christian podcast network called The Gatekeepers. And so, like, we would interview mostly theologians and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, it's like when you're in the middle of COVID, you're asking these pastors about how do you handle COVID? How do you handle this? How do you handle that? And I'm still getting emails today from YouTube saying this video that you posted in 2019 violates our terms and conditions. We're like, this is nuts. This is absolutely insane. But this is where we need alternatives. Like Rumble is a great alternative, and it's one of the reasons why we're leaning really heavily into integrating with them. And been talking with the team over there and all that. But one of the things that's so key in all of this is that you should be able to say whatever your opinion is. I don't care what it is, as long as it's legal. You're not making like a violent threat. You're not, organizing terrorism. You should be able to say whatever you want, even if it's unpopular, even if it's uncontroversial. And then if you're wrong, let the people decide or respond. Like, that's my thing. Everybody always asks me, like, how are you going to deal with censorship? And I'm like, I'm not. You can decide. If you don't like what somebody is saying, you have a few different options. You could block them. You could unfriend them, unfollow them. You could respond with a superior argument, or guess what? You could just ignore them. There's always that too. But for whatever reason, everybody gets in the mind, no, we need to ban them. We need to shut them down. We need to stop this. It's like, no, free speech can be messy because we all are coming from different perspectives, and we're never going to actually get to the point to where we can have a consensus on a particular issue unless we can kind of duke it out and debate and discuss until we actually come down to some sort of give and take, or at the very least some understanding of where the other side is coming from. But if we're just going to get into this whole censorship control, we're going to create this Overton window that you can't get outside of, then we're never going to actually fix a lot of the problems that we're facing in this country.
Have we reached the point to where, we're talking about the algorithms, and I'm talking about 5-6 o'clock. That's when the little, I call it kind of a little Pac-Man had consumed all of my show, and then by that time had issued the red flags that they wanted to issue. Are we at the place where on some of these platforms that the genie's out of the bottle, meaning that AI and robotics, they have become so automated that AI has been trained wrong and it's running the globe? And how do you avoid that? How do we avoid becoming censored by the non-existent, non-human, non-breathing algorithms that are out there? Is there a way to roll that back on some of these platforms, or in general, how do you make sure that those AI bots don't take over your platform?
Yeah, so number one, so when it comes to all the platforms that are already out there right now, I would say that the genie probably is already out of the bottle, and a lot of it is because their business model is in AI, is in artificial intelligence. I mean, if I don't know if you noticed, but X was actually bought by Elon's other company, XAI. So XAI now owns X. And they're using X as their massive data collection in order to funnel it into XAI. And a lot of people don't realize that XAI just purchased X itself. And so they're using X as that massive, massive data collection that's going into XAI, which makes them basically the most relevant, up-to-date artificial intelligence on the planet right now, because they're getting information in real time by our posts on X. Facebook just invested like $65 billion into developing artificial intelligence over the next 5 years, I believe it is. But it's for the purpose of actually creating artificial intelligent generated content creators. So their game plan and their roadmap is actually to eliminate the need for human content creators. And they'll have AI generated content creators. That way they can control what's said. They're never going to have to censor, because guess what? They control what's actually coming out of the virtual mouths of these AI generated creators. And then they'll never piss off advertisers. They'll be able to use them to manipulate you and push you in certain directions. So I would say that the genie's already out of the bottle when it comes to a lot of these platforms, because they're leaning and investing so heavily in artificial intelligence. One of the other things that a lot of people don't realize as well is Truth Social is another one that they, in order for them to be able to be approved in the App Store, they ended up deciding what we're going to do is we're going to contract with a Silicon Valley artificial intelligence company to do the content moderation for us on the platform. So Truth Social is using AI to do their content moderation. So with us specifically, I'm trying to create a human to human interaction space. And the way that we're doing that specifically is we're on the back end of structurally, we're not using artificial intelligence. We're not using algorithmic manipulations or trying to use technology in order to censor, control or anything like that. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create a space for human beings to be creative and have engagement with other people, and we're going to try to bridge the gap between real life and what happens on the social media with doing events and different things like that. But one of the really interesting things that we're trying to do here is we're leaning very heavily into a free verification system, so that way you get verified on our platform. We're not charging for it, but that way, if you see a blue check mark on our platform, that is an actual real life human being. This is not just a bot, an anonymous troll. If you look at some of the other platforms where there's some really awful things that are said, 98% of those awful things that are said behind anonymous accounts with fake names. You never see their picture, nothing like that. So by us leaning heavily into this verification process, what we can do is we can make sure that only verified accounts will trend, only verified accounts will be recommended. It would be very difficult, if not impossible, for an unverified account to actually thrive on our platform, which weeds out all the bots and trolls and AI and all that kind of stuff.
Made me nervous. We had a glitch in the matrix for a second. You froze up there, and I was making sure everything's okay, but you're back there. Jeff Dornick is my guest. He's the founder and CEO of a company called Pickaxe. I'll talk more about the platform here in just a second. One of the reasons that they say they censor us is they want to, President Trump uses the phrase fake news, and all the platform says, oh, that's fake news, and he says it's fake news. Everybody accuses each other of fake news. And then you troll out these fact checkers. You don't know who the fact checkers are, but the fact checkers will say it's fake news, and you turn out the fact checkers are frauds as well. But they say they're doing that to prevent misinformation. Talk about your thoughts on that, because obviously misinformation can be harmful. It can be slanderous. It can all sorts of things. How do you avoid the misinformation? Because as the old adage says, a rumor or a lie is halfway around the globe before truth has a chance to get his pants on. How do you make sure that these social media platforms aren't spreading lies and things that are false that could be harmful? How do we make sure that the truth has his pants on quicker?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't believe that it is the platform's responsibility to deal with deciding what's true and what's not true. And a lot, if you notice as well, a lot of the rumors that begin and a lot of the quote unquote misinformation that begins and really trends on social media, I would argue is actually coming from our intelligence agencies, because they are using bot farms in an insane amount in order to manipulate the algorithms and manipulate public perception in a lot of things. So if you look at a lot of the crazy things that are put out there that would be legitimate misinformation, a lot of times it's actually originating not with a respected person or even a verified account. A lot of times it begins trending with bots where like literally you have all these accounts that will say the exact same thing in a particular niche market until people start sharing it because, oh my gosh, that's controversial. I've never heard of that before. And then they start sharing it, but it's totally false, bogus. But it's a way that the intelligence agencies, both ours and foreign countries, they actually use bots and bot farms in order to manipulate our perception. So with us, obviously, with you're not going to have a bot farm on our platform that would be able to do that because of our verification, system and the way that we're doing that. But I'm not going to get in there when it comes to deciding what's true, what's not true. We'll let people decide. We're getting a lot of really great investigative journalists coming onto the platform as well, where and I'm trying to set things up to where maybe one person can write an article and then maybe somebody else can write a response to the article, but it's all tagged together and linked together to where you can see opposing perspectives on the same topic, on the same issue. So if you want to read this article, great. Here's another one that pertains to that same issue. You can get the other side and you can make up your own mind. So we're going to try to just get you more information as opposed to decide what's misinformation and what's not.
Jeff, I have a problem like many people. I have an X account. I have a Truth Social account. I have let's see, the Facebook's pages that we run off of it. We got all these platforms, and through the time I've had Parler, I have the Rumble, I've got the YouTube. You're trying to keep up with all of this stuff. How do you cut through the noise to anybody going, oh, gosh, another one? I can't even keep up with the ones I have. Are you asking me to get rid of one that I already have, or you're going to replace something? How do you cut through the noise where a lot of folks say another platform? I don't know if I can keep up with it.
Yeah, no, I thought through this, a lot, especially when we were even considering, launching this thing in the beginning, because obviously I had to go out and get an investor. We had to get this thing fully funded so we could build this thing out, and I had to figure out, can I justify another social media platform? So one of the things that I thought through, in when I was first building this thing was during COVID was when a lot of these alternative social media platforms either launched or they really grew massively. Places like Parler, like Getter, like True Social, Clout Hub, Gab, even. But what if you notice, the vast majority of them, they grew because a lot of the people were getting kicked off of Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. They had nowhere else to go, and so they ended up going to a lot of these platforms. Now if you go to Getter, yeah, people are still using Getter, but the vast majority of the influential people immediately went back to Twitter as soon as Elon bought it and allowed everybody back on. So a lot of these platforms kind of became the home of the Twitter rejects. And it was an easy way to build, but they weren't necessarily offering anything technologically that was superior or allowed them to compete. Instead, they were kind of knockoffs of these other platforms. What we're trying to do, and I knew this going into it, it's going to be a lot slower build, and it's going to be a lot more difficult because we're kind of climbing uphill because we don't have the ease of everybody's getting banned off of Twitter. So they've got nowhere else to go. Come on over to Pickaxe. That's not our pitch. Our pitch is look at our lack of algorithms, true free speech and freedom of reach. So that's great. But then also the features that we're rolling out, your ability to actually promote Rumble on our platform. If you post a Rumble link on X or Facebook, you actually get demoted in the algorithms. They do not want you sending people off-site. Outbound links get demoted on all of these platforms, so which makes it difficult for content creators to actually build up, let's say, a channel on Rumble or promote a product that they can get paid for, a sponsored post or something like that. So you can do all that through Pickaxe, but then also the ability to write articles. You have the ability to send email newsletters, have direct access, build an email list, control the email list. You can upload it. You'll be able to upload your email list, download your email list, collect emails. That's invaluable information and data that allows you to take control over your voice and actually build a legitimate business if you want to build a business or have a show or something along those lines. And we've got a lot more features that are going to be coming down the pipeline as well. But my pitch to people is come over to Pickaxe because of the features and everything that will be integrated into the social media platform, not just because, oh my gosh, we got another social media platform, come on over to Pickaxe. It's no, we're trying to entice you with superior technology that you can use to actually get your voice back.
I just see Obnoxious Scott, who's watching on Rumble right now, just said signed up on Pickaxe. Looking forward to it. So there's a sign up from today's show. Producer Chad and I will look at Pickaxe and see if we can integrate our Rumble feed over to Pickaxe. You mentioned it's not an app right now for your phone. It's web-based, so they can go to their browser. And I'm guessing, is it just pickaxe.com?
Yeah, just pickaxe.com, pickax.com. And so web-based right now, very easy to use on your mobile, but you do have to go through a browser in order to get there. But we're going to be rolling out an app here in the next 6 to 8 weeks, and then we'll be rocking and rolling in all the app stores.
Well, look for me over there, Jeff. You'll find us over there real soon, and we look forward to testing it out and putting it in drive and seeing how it goes. We look forward to that because we're love the Rumble. We're new to Rumble, so we'll integrate there as well. Pickaxe.com. All right, I got to ask you, where'd the name Pickaxe come from? I know where the Facebook came from. Pickaxe means what?
Yeah, so there's kind of a few different things. I wanted something that we could turn into a verb, and so one of the things that we're doing on our platform is if you like something, you pick it. If you don't, you axe it, and we've got the little buttons there that you can do that. So that's kind of how we kind of verbified it to a certain degree. But I really also wanted something that emoted like manual labor as opposed to a lot of the typical techie kind of names and all that kind of stuff, because this is like free speech is difficult. Like this is a difficult process to actually discuss and debate and get into the grind and stuff, but also we're picking away at the control that big tech and all these big platforms have over us. So I'm really trying to emote a more manual labor type mentality, because that's really what we need moving forward, not just a bunch of people sitting in your basement just tweeting off a million different things. It's like, no, we're going to do the messy business of free speech. We're going to start doing some in-person events. We're going to be finding different ways of integrating and working with other companies and other free speech platforms and all that kind of stuff. So that's really the heart of what we're trying to do with Pickaxe, and that's really what's behind the name there.
Jeff Dornick, it's a pleasure. Pickaxe.com. I appreciate you hopping on. We'll talk again. If fascinating, and I look forward to trying it. And again, look for me, Jeff. You're on the Pickaxe, so I can say hello to you, I guess.
Exactly. Go over there, follow me, and then we'll definitely see you over there.
You got it, Jeff Dornick, pickaxe.com. Thanks for hopping on the program. Interesting. I look forward to checking it out. Pickaxe.com. But it all ties in together. I remember those damn algorithms that shut us down. I mean, literally, I was locked out of my Twitter. No email, no nothing. It's just I couldn't get into X one day, or Twitter at the time, under the Dorsey days. I just couldn't get there. And one day it opened up again before Elon bought it, but I finally could get in again. It was weird, but that's how they did it. They just didn't want to have any kind of differing opinions. And what's funny is all the things that they said they had to have fact checkers on, and all the things that they said they were protecting the public from because we were conspiracy theorists. Guess what? Pretty much all of them turned out to be true. The conspiracy theorists were actually correct. They all made fun of Noah until the rain started to fall, and they all made fun of us until the truth came out about that little effort, Dr. Fauci. Still hoping they could find a way to unpardon him, because I think he's committed crimes against humanity. And old demented Joe Biden, or someone that had his auto pen, pardoned Dr. Fauci for a very specific reason, because they know the guy's a criminal. And we talked about it, called him a criminal from the very beginning of COVID. A lot of people said, I love Dr. Fauci. He's looking out for America. I said, he's a criminal, mark my word. And sure enough, Lakey was right. A lot of folks were wrong, and that's why we call him the little effer. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a long weekend for all of us. We're going to take Monday off here on the show. We're going to do the stolen meme section, but I do want to remind you about our good friend Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Listen, you've been, it's kind of hard to believe summer's here, right? Because you're like, I was gone all of April traveling so much. You remember all the hotel shows I did? And so I'm like, how is it already almost June and now? And it's because summer's right here. And some of you have been thinking about real estate. You've been thinking about buying. You've been thinking about selling. You've just been wanting to get a strategy. Some of you think maybe you waited too long. You should have listed that home in April. Listen, stop second guessing yourself. You need to do this weekend. You need to do this today. Get in touch with Sherry Cree and talk with her. You did not wait too long. Yes, the market's changed sometime between March and April, May, June, July. The way you're going to go to market, the way you're going to strategize in your search or in your purchase, it's all going to be different maybe in July than it would be in November. But have that strategy that works for you, because Sherry's going to approach it to be she wants to be your realtor for life. She wants to know your big picture dreams, your long-term dreams. And she also, my friends, wants to she wants to help you create a real estate transactions that can create generational wealth. And you just think you're buying a house. You actually could be buying your retirement. And there's just different perspectives that Sherry can bring to the topic of real estate. And if you're ready to buy, you're ready to sell, homeswithsherry.com. And listen, this is the weekend. You've been delaying. You think you might even miss the spring window. Did I wait too long? Can I list the home in July? Listen, People are always buying a house. Go ahead and start the process with Sherry. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. My good friend Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com. Have a conversation. There is no obligation. And you're going to just kind of talk about where you're at, where you want to be. And she can find out if it's a match. Not everybody is a match. I'll tell you the story. She recently attended a party in a neighborhood celebrating the retirement and the moving on of somebody they had retired, and she sold their house, and she was the most loved and hated person at that party because the people that loved her were the ones that sold the house for top dollar. The ones that were kind of bothered by her were all the neighbors going, why did you have to sell the house so quick? Because we were hoping to have a little bit extra time, a few more barbecues and cookouts with our neighbors that we've loved. Listen, homeswithsherry.com. You owe it to yourself, my friends, to get in touch with her. And not only are you finding a great realtor, homeswithsherry.com, you're also supporting this program when you call homeswithsherry.com. And veterans, first responders, those of you that have you, your family have served in the military, don't forget she takes a cut from her commission and donates 10% back to the charity of your choice. She also takes a ding in her commissions. If you are a veteran first responder, she just really loves to give back to those who have sacrificed and given and served their country and their community. So homeswithsherry.com. What are you waiting on? Homeswithsherry.com. Mention Jimmy Lakey. Say, hey, Jimmy Lakey, I watched the show, and homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the stolen meme section of the show where we go around the globe and we shamelessly steal things. We steal it. And these are generally memes. Sometimes we'll show you where we stole it from. Sometimes we just steal it because we're lazy and we have a low budget and we just do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, pull up the cheap globe and around and around the globe we go where we steal the memes from no one knows. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Fred Sanford. And the captions say, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says, I'm not only smart, I'm street smart. And then Fred Sanford looks up at the photo and says, you're Sesame Street smart. That's for sure. Sesame Street smart. All right, let's go to the next one. That's true. Round around the globe we go where we steal the memes from no one knows. We stole this one from Bill Ackman, a blue check mark. Says, why is it not okay for the Department of Defense to accept a $400 million plane from Qatar? But it is okay for our elite universities to accept billions of dollars from Qatars. How is one proper and the other's not? Just asking. It's a great point. Great point, all you people feigning, I can't believe Donald Trump's accepting the gift of a $400 million plane for the government. Well, all these elite universities, they're taking billions of dollars every year from Qatar for the indoctrination of their students. And why do you condemn that and not the other? Ladies and gentlemen, round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. There's a beautiful glass of some brown liquor, some bourbon. Tomorrow is National Stay at Home with Your Dog and Drink Bourbon Day. It's nothing official. I just made it up. Tell everybody else. That's tomorrow. Stay at home with your dog and drink bourbon. Just made it up, but hey, spread the word, everybody. Spread the word. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This is a little Jeep vehicle. This is a tire cover on the back, and it shows a stick shift, and the tire cover says this vehicle equipped with millennial anti-theft device. And here's the caption. If we all switched to cursive and stick shift vehicles, we could cripple an entire generation. This is true. This is true. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Do you remember before the internet when people thought the cause of stupidity was lack of access to information? Anybody remember that? Yeah, you don't have enough information. People are ignorant. And then they had the internet, and you're going, okay, that wasn't the cause. Yeah, that's true. Stupidity is stupid. Stupid is as stupid does. Stupidity you'll always have with you. And don't look at the person sitting next to you when I say that. Round and around the globe we go. I think we got another meme to go. It's a Babylon Bee. We love stealing from the Babylon Bee because they're very creative. It's a photo of Dr. Jill Biden and demented poopy pants Joe Biden. Biden family worried they may be running out of time to exploit Joe. That's true. Dr. Jill Biden, what are you going to do, Jill, when Joe is expired? You have milked his fame and his fortune into a lot of power and prestige for yourself. I think you're a disgusting human being from what I can tell, Dr. Jill. I would say you have committed elder abuse, and you have used him, and your family has used him to promote themselves and their own agendas. And the Biden family, very, very nervous. By the way, the more stories come out of the Biden White House, it's not a joke or hyperbole to say that I heard it said by people in the know that Hunter Biden was actually in the Oval Office more than his dad was. Who's been running the country? A crackhead, evidently. Round around the globe, some policies look like we've been on crack. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Boom. Ladies and gentlemen, that means we have milked the meme machine dry. And in milking the meme machine dry, that means our story must come to a conclusion that we call today's show. I want to thank all of our sponsors. Thank to everybody. Sherry Cree. We always like to say thanks to Corey Clinton, 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning. A lot of good friends out there have supported us through the many years. If you'd like me to give a shout out to your business, feel free. Send me an email, info@jimmylakey.com. We can work something out, info@jimmylakey.com, info@jimmylakey.com. Now, I do want to remind you, this Monday is Memorial Day. We will take the Memorial Day time to remember and contemplate those who pay the ultimate price so that we could continue to be the land of the free and the home of the brave. A lot of folks say we have forgotten the reason for Memorial Day, so I want to coach you as a person listening to the Lakey Unleashed streamcast or podcast or watching it, however you're watching it. Please remember that it's always nice to say thank you for your service, but that's not what Monday is about. Monday is where we commemorate those who have paid the ultimate price and sacrificed and died, especially those who died serving their country. But we commemorate those who have served. Let me also remind you, Monday, if you're looking for a way to commemorate and to celebrate, producer Chad sent me this information the other day. I want to let you know that you can be a part of it. It is this coming Monday. Here we go. It's the American Legion Memorial Day service. It's at the Louisville Cemetery in Louisville, Colorado. And the American Legion's putting it on. If you want to be there, the ceremony at the Louisville Cemetery is going to be at 11 a.m. Louisville, Colorado. Kentucky, you would pronounce it Louisville, but we cannot call it Louisville here. Louisville, Colorado at 11 a.m. If you're interested, this is open to the public at the Louisville Cemetery in Colorado. And then there's going to be an event back at the American Legion Hall, and I think food trucks and just a great celebration. But it all begins with a Memorial Day service at the Louisville Cemetery. It's at 11 o'clock on Monday morning. And any of you that like to participate, it is open to the public. I'm going to do my best to be there. I have not committed fully because of just some other things that are happening that day. I think producer Chad's going to be there. So anybody there, look for producer Chad. And it's the American Legion Memorial Day service, Louisville, Colorado Cemetery, 11 a.m. If you can be there, be there. I know there's some other commemorations around the nation and around Colorado and maybe in your neighborhood, but remember the reason for Memorial Day as we pause and say, without these brave people that gave their life and sacrifice, we would not be the great country that we are today. And again, it's not Veterans Day, difference in Veterans Day and Memorial Day. And so please, again, you can thank somebody for their service. That's not a problem. But please remember, there's a lot of people that paid a big price. And a lot of those bodies, you go back to WW2, it's amazing. I have yet to, in all my travels of Europe, I've not yet been to any of the big cemeteries over there that have the American World War II. And I so want to go. I think I'd have to prepare myself emotionally and psychologically for that. To think that a 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds back in the 1940s were going to far, far away places when global travel was not as easy, perhaps, as it is now. And their remains could not even be returned. They died in such numbers that their remains could not all be sent home. So many of these people had family members that for years or decades could not even go to the graveside where their loved one, there was just a boy who graduated high school, was now interred in a foreign country that many people never got to go and see. So that's what Memorial Day is all about. I hope you'll celebrate it and commemorate it accordingly. And it ain't just about the burgers, and it ain't just about the dogs, and it's not telling every veteran out there, thank you for your service. It is a moment to have reflection and thank God for those people that were willing to lay down their lives so that you and I may know freedom. Greater love has no man except he'd be willing to lay down his life for another. And that's what our American military does on a regular basis. And God bless them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't made a donation to charity this week, I'd like for you to make a donation to Rivers Promise. You see it over my shoulder, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. We're still trying to finish up the month of May strong, still shooting towards our $50,000 goal. $30, $60, $600. You get the idea. You know the story. Love for you to donate. Go check out the website, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. And I'd love to hear from you today. As a Friday, if you get paid today, contemplate helping the kids over there in Africa. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Have a great 3-day weekend. Good Lord willing, the creeks don't rise. Producer Chad and I will be back here Tuesday morning. We will not be here Monday. Go commemorate Memorial Day in America. And on this Memorial Day weekend, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, whether you're watching us on Twitter, which is off the charts this morning, whether you're on any of the Facebook pages, you're on the Rumble, soon you'll be on the Pickaxe, you're on the Instagram, wherever you've been watching the show. I mean this on this Memorial Day weekend. May God bless you. May God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. I'll see you next week. Peace. I'm out of here.